Friday. Thanks for joining me on Fridays with Flora, and today we have a really fun project, a wearable craft project. I love thrifting for clothes, and I've been doing it since I was 16, and I have, sidebar, noticed that a lot of the prices have gone up since it's actually cool to go thrifting. I have been thrifting since I was 16 years old, saving my babysitting money to go shopping and get vintage clothes, and I have to say it used to be a lot cheaper. But that being said, it's still pretty cheap, and you keep stuff out of the landfills by upcycling and reusing clothes. And now it's even easier to go thrifting from your laptop because of thredUP and a lot of other online sites where you can thrift right from your home office or your kitchen table. So I like roaming around and going to the actual thrift stores. And yeah, it depends on how organized and clean a lot of them are, but I have definitely my favorite spots in the city, and one of my favorite spots, I always find really great denim. And so today I'm going to show you a little denim jacket. Okay, it's got a nice little flare at the waist, which is kind of cute. So as I complain about pricing, this is $8.99 for like a used jean jacket, and I remember where this probably would have been maybe $4, maybe. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So anyway, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how you can take, you know, maybe something that looks a little dated, like this jean jacket, and we're going to kind of add a little bit of embellishment to it really easily with some embroidery and some buttons, and we can really brighten it up and make it really fun. So with this technique, you can do this on bags and purses, shirts, blouses, even a skirt and a denim skirt. So I hope this will inspire you to look at, you know, getting some older pieces of clothes and think about how to embellish them so that you can refresh them and add something really unique and kind of fun to your wardrobe for the fall. So anyway, join me. I think we're gonna be in the craft room, we'll see, to do some upcycling of a jean jacket. So as far as supplies, there's a couple things that I like to have nearby. So obviously pins and needle and thread. Some fabric. I'm going to show you how to make a fabric flower, and I'm going with shades of blue. Obviously whatever design you want to do, pick the fabric that works for you. I also at the thrift store found this big bag of embroidery thread, which was a total score. I think I got this for $3.99, so that was super, super exciting. So sometimes you really can find bargains at the thrift store. Clothes I think have gotten pricey, but other stuff I think you can get a real steal. Then I went to the Joann's Craft. I got some really pretty buttons. I know I wanted some floral and some blues. This I couldn't resist. I'm not sure how I'm going to use it or if I'm going to use it. And then some other pretty flowers. You can see I'm having like a floral design. The other thing I did get was fabric tack. This is really great to have on hand in your craft room. And you know, once it sets, it's pretty strong, can withstand the washer machine. So if you want to cheat sometimes, or it's difficult to sew something together, this works out pretty well. And so that's going to help with our fabric flowers. All right, so that, other than some scissors, I think I've got everything. So I'm going to kind of get set up. Okay, so you know what? I decided to work in my home office floor. So the craft room is a little messy. It looks like the fabric store kind of threw up all over it, so that's gonna be my project this weekend, is to get that all organized and clean. So, and actually when I do sew, especially quilting, I do like to work on the floor. But anyway, so I'm gonna put my denim jacket on the floor to work on, and I'll give you guys a better view in a sec. I do want to highlight, we are doing embroidery and sewing, and one of the things that I was fortunate enough to get is a magnifying lamp. This is from Bright Tech. It's a really great company that has so many cool tools for crafters and artists. And when you're dealing with detail work like embroidery or sewing, it's nice to get up close, and it's also nice to have a light. And this light, it's a full spectrum light. So what's nice about this is, you know, for artists like me and art directors, you know, we can look at proofs and prints in a nice, clean, true color way, which is really, really nice. This is the flex one. So, you know, it can bend and be wherever you need it to be, which is great. I do recommend, if you're going to be doing some embroidery work, to get some help to save your eyesight by using a magnifying lamp. So I'm going to be, you know, what's going to be great is that you can see up close and personal through this. So that's going to be a nice little trick for you guys. So anyway, I have this nearby, and I think the next step is to come up with our design. Like, what's our idea? How are we going to approach this? Where's everything going to go? So with that, you know, it's nice to have either some seamstress chalk or some like a blue pencil or a white pencil that can wash out in the wash, so that you have a sense of like just a rough design on what's on the fabric. Rather than just kind of putting everything everywhere, I like having a focal point so your eye knows where to go, and then it kind of meanders and you kind of guide your eye through the design. That's sort of how I like to do things. So this is great, and buying these at the craft shop are great. But I also would like to add a few more flowers that are more fabric-y. And, you know, at this point you're going to kind of figure out your color scheme. And I know these buttons are kind of on the cool teal side, so you need to figure out from there what you want to do. I think, honestly, those are the only two that I liked. So do you see how you're just kind of figuring out? That feels good, and that feels good. Just trying to figure out your color scheme. Okay, so with like some seamstress chalk or a pencil that can be washed out, kind of start I'm going to show you with the handy magnifier, which is going to show you also how amazing these are. Okay, so my fabric flower is going to go here. This guy's going to go here. And then we'll do some embroidery there. All right, so now you have a plan, which is great. Now we are going to make a fabric flower. All right, so here's our long strip of blue fabric. And I have just a simple needle and blue thread. We're going to fold this over. And what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of a gather stitch as if we were creating pleats in a skirt. So this is like an accordion stitch. Now, what the accordion stitch is going to do is give a little bit of gathering, a little bit of plumpiness. See what I'm saying? So continue through the whole thing till you get to the end. Okay, so once you get to the end, okay, so you've got this you know, it's starting to curl up, that's okay. But you've got a really long, long piece of fabric, and you just kind of want to figure out, don't tie it off at the end yet. You just want to gather it as evenly as possible. So scoot things, you know, scoot things this way, that way, before you tie it off at the knot. So before we get rolling here, I just want to have my fabric tack ready. I do like using the fabric tack for this. And I will also say that depending on how big your rose is, cut a base, like a circular base. It doesn't need to be perfect, but what we're going to do is we're going to roll and create our little rose, and then we're going to put glue on here and kind of set it and glue it. We could also try to put a little bit of fabric tack on the bottom edge of this. I just don't know if that's going to do much. We're going to start at one end, and you're going to start rolling it in the middle really, really tight. Really tight. See how tight that is? But you also see how the gathering is helping build. So as you start going around and round, loosen things up. See how pretty that is? So what I like to do at this point is hit the end with a little glue and hold it. Then with your needle and thread, run it through the bottom a little bit. Okay, so tighten it up, and if some of your loose sides, a little too loose, like over here, just put a little stitch in here and there. Fluff your rolls. Ta-da! Isn't that pretty? And then you can size your glue piece even closer. And what you do is you put a nice amount of glue, maybe even go into some of the flour, just for good measure, and then put the base on. What this does is it gives you, first of all, it just cleans up the flour. It gives you some extra support to the rosette. And it gives you a little something extra to sew the rosette onto the denim. So that's how you do a fabric flower. Isn't that cool? We're going to work on this, and we're going to do a stem stitch. All these stitches I'm going to show you, there is plenty on YouTube that can teach you a lot of these embroidery stitches. I'm going to keep things really basic. This is definitely not about an embroidery how-to video. There are plenty more talented people out there that can do that. I'm keeping things very basic. For me, this is about just, you know, with simple basic skills, you can upcycle and embellish something really, really fun that maybe you think, you know, looks a little dated, or, you know, it looks a little boring, you don't want anymore. So this is a stem stitch, which you're going to start with a back stitch. So we're gonna go back and we're following one of our tendrils. See that? And look at how great this magnifier. I mean, you just really see what you're doing. So now you're under, and you're going to take the needle and halfway next to that stitch, like about there, maybe even a little, like there, okay? So you're on its, you're next to it, halfway. Pull back up. And go to the front. Come up next to it halfway. And go to the front. This stitch is great for curves, flowers, leaves, that kind of thing. So halfway next to, and then puncture in to the front. Isn't that great? Isn't it great how this light and this magnifier can really get you in correctly? Like you really can see when you're halfway next to and to the front. And as you can see, I'm following the little design we made. So we're gonna follow through and go all the way over there in the same way. And I'm basically gonna do all the tendrils like that. I might switch between this light green and this dark green. So we've got our little vines, if you will, which are looking really good with that stem stitch. So now we're going to do a French knot. We're going to do French knots, I think along some of our vines, like maybe a few here, almost like as if they were flower buds or something, and that's where the gold is going to come in. So a French knot, they're so adorable. I love them. And it's another simple one for really basic beginners. So again, don't be intimidated by some of this stuff. And if you want to dive in more on embroidery, there's just so much on YouTube that can help you out. And then there's also lots of books. The French knot. Wherever you want it. Hold your thread. And you're going to twist it around like that. And then you're going to plunge it back through. So I want my next one over there. gonna go around my needle and then plunge back down and through. Okay, so I have a variety of bigger to smaller. You know, you can change your sizes of your French knot depending on how many times you go around, or you can go in and out and twist it around and go down again. So play with your different sizes. I went a little smaller on this side than the main side. I went a little bigger, and some of them got a little messy. I don't know what's going on with this gold thread, but anyway. This gold thread kind of frays a little bit, or I don't know, it doesn't stay together that well, but I'm pretty happy with that. So now we're going to do some leaves, and I wanted to make sure I was putting leaves in places that made sense. So I think I'm going to put a leaf there for sure, and then a leaf here, and maybe one over here, and then one little lonely guy over here. So that takes a different kind of stitch. So to make a leaf, you use the fishbone stitch, and there's some really great tutorials, like I said, on YouTube. You are going to need a center line. So let's make a center line, because that's going to be kind of our guide for our leaf. Okay. All right. So we've got our center line right there. And we're going to start at the top from the back. And do a longish stitch down the center. Now, right next to it, up at the top, to the right, pull through and then go right in front of where your last stitch was. So from the right side of your last stitch to the front of it. Can you see that okay? Now, you're back at the bottom. Now go to the left. Go right next to it. And now go to the front of the last one. You're going down that center line every time in front of your last stitch. This is what a fishbone looks like. So now go back to the right. Go to the right. If you can. This is always a lot easier to do with an embroidery hoop. And white. Simple embroidery fabric. Okay, to the front of the last one. Back to the left. And where you're landing is you're following your drawing, right? So even though I'm to the left of that last stitch, I'm a little lower because you want that leaf shape. And I'm going in front of that last stitch. I'm just going to keep going. All right, so I finished my leaves. I've got one little guy over here. I've got two over here. It's going to flank a lot of the flowers. I had thought I wanted to have one here, but I decided I'm going to wait until I get my other stuff in. So now it's time to sew our bigger flowers onto our jacket. Now this is where this little piece, this base below, because we can just do a simple stitch around the bottom edge there to get it onto your jacket. And then this piece has got a little bit of felt. You could also probably stitch through some of these leaves over here. And we're gonna do that. And you can see already it's starting to come together really nicely. So I'm gonna go to the back of my last, go under. That's your back stitch. Where I came out, I'm gonna go in behind it, under it, so that I pop out in front of it. Okay, so things are really coming together nicely. These are sewn on and they feel pretty good, but I'm just gonna hit the back here and there with a little bit of fabric tack in little places, just as an extra kind of security. So, see like where that leaf is? I think I might actually put that little guy on. I also went into my button jar and found some other unique things. Like this might have been fun as a center. Actually, I think it's too big and it's gonna fight with everything else, so I'm going to skip that. That might be nice right there. So just kind of strategically figure out where you want to put these. So there you have it. I think I'm done. You know, take a look at, you know, lay it flat and look at the balance of everything if you want to add any more buttons here or there. I certainly have some more if I wanted to, but I think, you know, everything else might get too busy and I don't necessarily want that, but it's totally up to you. You know, lay it down, make sure everything kind of works. Turned out pretty cute, I gotta say. I'm pretty excited. So anyway, this is what you can do, thrifting. A little bit of simple embroidery and sewing skills. You too can freshen anything up going to the thrift store. Or even just going through your closet and seeing what you got. Maybe you're kind of bored and before you just donate it, see if you can freshen it up. It's a little chilly out here, so I'm gonna head on in. But thanks for joining me today on Fridays with Flora, getting some embroidery skills and sewing skills under our belt. And be sure to hit that button below so you can stay tuned on all the fun things we're doing around here. Anyway, have a great weekend. Next week is Thanksgiving, so get your cooking skills going and get that menu started. Anyway, in gratitude, see you in 2 weeks.